So here we go then, race number 13 at the round-robin stage of the Louis Vuitton America's Cup qualifiers. The opening race of the day, Great Britain against France, and the dogfight, Ken, well underway.
The dogfight is well underway. You see the starting line way up in the box, way up high, and these guys are actually very early for the starting line. Frank Camas is very early, so you're seeing Great Britain, Ben Ainslie, going for what's called a hook maneuver. He's going to go down and at least push France as hard as he can toward the line and try to get them committed early or down below that lay line. This is the pushing and hooking maneuver that he's trying to go for, ripping in from behind and then trying to get himself overlapped. At worst, they're going to be early. You know, that's the thing that Ainslie's trying to do. At best, and actually attack by Groupama right there. They know they're early. They're really in trouble. They've been set up in trouble for this entire last 40 seconds because they were just too close to the line. They're going to end up starting well behind Ainslie when after the starting gun goes.
So a masterful display in the pre-start from Sir Ben Ainslie and Land Rover BAR. They are off to a flyer. They will cross the line with a fair distance between themselves and the French right at the outset.
We're going to go straight at Mark 1.
A really important day for both of these boats. Not had things go their own way for the most part, but a real opportunity to stamp some authority on proceedings this afternoon as they fly across the water. And the British already approaching 40 knots.
Going to be about 30 away after Mark 1.
Certainly just, he kind of picked on a tough move by Frank Camas. When he circled around and started back toward the line, that early, that close, you're really asking. It's kind of a recipe for disaster. And Ben was, he was not merciful in his approach.
I'm not sure Ben has ever been merciful in his approach on the water. No. Maybe in his private life, I hope so for his sake, but certainly when it comes to the sailing, it is a ruthless streak that he possesses, and he is making it count here this afternoon. The French already playing catch-up in a fairly sizable fashion.
What we're looking at here with the French now is stability. They showed much better stability yesterday on the foils during their maneuvers in the lighter conditions. That could have been a different set of foils. It could be technique. It could be software within the boat. This is a telling sign right now. Not a bad jibe, not perfect, but not a bad jibe, foil to foil. I got to tell you, they do look more stable out there right now, but it's early times in this race.
Tremendous speed right from the outset from the British crew.
Have trouble, so let's go straight.
And the grinders hard at work, of course, yet again, as they try to generate all the hydraulic power for the rest of this boat to be shifted. But the British are screaming around the course, and they round gate 2 and head upwind for the first time in the race.
Looking very sharp so far, very comfortable, stable. It's easy for us to say here in the booth, you know, it's blowing hard. It's blowing 16, 17 knots right now. The instability of Groupama comes back, but they bail out of it pretty quickly. The key there is to not get really slow and have to do that big speed build after it's fat. They decided not to do a split at that bottom mark, so they're going to kind of try to keep it close here in the early parts of this race, and see what happens. See if Ainslie makes a mistake.
Okay, lock it in here, boys.
Copy. What's he doing, Giles? Giles, what's he doing?
He's tacking on our hip.
Okay, so what mode do you want? Normal mode?
Just ever so slightly high, but not much, please.
Copy.
Too high at the moment.
You can hear very clearly the question from Sir Ben Ainslie to Giles Scott, the tactician. What is he doing? He's keeping a very close eye on exactly what the French are up to.
I think when the breeze is on like this, the concentration of these drivers is immense. I mean, these things are, to say that they're on the edge is doing a disservice to things that are on the edge. I mean, this is marginal stuff all the time, and the windier it gets, the more crazy it is. And you can see by his concentration level and how he's relying on his tactician, it's all that much more important. This is the elusive flight time that we've talked about. Some of the teams think that boats will go around the race course with the boat in the air 100% of the time. That's no splashdown whatsoever. It's amazing to think that Frank Camas has been in the air for 94% of the time and he's losing. You know, so 100%. Let's see. We haven't seen 100% yet. Let's see if the Brits can pull it off.
BMGs, please. Right next.
I tell you, the French are not. They're not going slow, and they're not falling behind like we saw in those first couple races.
Yeah, copy. BMGs. Numbers.
Crossing not too far away, the French.
They're one tack ahead. Ben Ainsley is. He will be on starboard coming back again. But I think the big call is that the French aren't going away here, Ali.
Okay, good tap on the dial.
So battle well and truly joined out there on the Great Sound of Bermuda. Britain and France, two old foes going at it, hammer and tongs out there. Such a long history and tradition of maritime duels between these two. This, the modern day version of it, and plenty in the grandstand relishing the contest.
Christian, we're, for those of us looking at screens and looking at the water from the distance, give us a little idea of how shifty it is out there on the water and how that might come into play.
Yeah, Ken, it is shifty. You see the French now, they're about to dip BAR, and they've obviously made a good gain. They made the first bit of that gain on the early starboard. They just had a little more pressure and stayed inside, and they've made another little gain on that port tack here, so they're within striking distance now.
The French are clearly, they've made some major changes here. From day number one of the competition to how they're sailing the boat now, it is literally night and day. So very impressive from the French group, never say die attitude. And you saw a little, what's called a dial down from Ben Ainsley there. He was the right-of-way boat, and he tried to make it as uncomfortable as possible for the French to dip behind them there, but no harm, no foul, and off they go. This next cross will be a big one because Groupama is now on starboard tack.
Okay, tacking.
Just seem to be riding a little higher above the water today, Groupama. Team France just giving themselves perhaps a slightly larger margin for error, and there is nothing in this really as they head to gate 3 and prepare to move downwind again.
Can you see him there? Yeah, I've got him.
Ainsley says he's got him, which means he's got control. They're likely going to cross.
Tacking.
Not the smoothest.
No, but they're not. They're inside that overlap. They're going to tack. He didn't think he was going to cross. Let's see if Groupama can get around the outside. Ainsley has the inside overlap, but can he get around the outside? Incredible turn of events right there. I really thought Ainsley was going to cross well ahead and decided at the last minute to splash down, stop it, and Groupama, another pass. Really incredible turn of events right there.
Well, once again, we're seeing how much it wasn't even a botched maneuver, was it? But it was not the cleanest, and that can really cost you when it comes to the meters between yourselves and the opponents.
Here comes the replay, and this is after the tack. Groupama just kind of loops around the outside. It's whether Ainsley had to tack or not. There's a possibility we can get back a little earlier in the sequence. It's whether Ainsley was going to get across Groupama or if or not. So that was really the big one. There's the tack. Ripping around the outside. Once he breaks the overlap, he can do whatever he wants to do, and Ainsley's kind of left in a little bit of wing wash to try to accelerate and get back going and keep this race close.
And it is certainly that. Just the kind of contest that everybody was hoping for on the shoreline today here in Bermuda.
Steady up.
Wonderful conditions. Just another fine sight, isn't it, as we see them tearing across the top of the water.
This will be a setup between Giles Scott and Ben Ainsley coming into this mark and trying to set up so they can split. and go in the opposite direction. It's funny, we heard different terms coming into this leeward gate. We heard the eagle on board the Oracle, whatever the eagle maneuver is. I talked to another group, they call it a Celia. You know, a tough maneuver is a Celia on board the boat for some reason. So we'll see if Ainsley does a split, or, I mean, he's got some pace right now. Can he just get over the top and not even have to create that split?
Yeah, he's really picking up some speed now, up to 40 knots. So Ben Ainsley and Land Rover BAR just chasing down the French.
Shall we split?
We've got room here, stand by jibe.
Proper drag race at the moment.
Proper drag race.
Okay, jibing.
We will create that split. Groupama will go straight in. Ainsley will cut across to this side. Not his best jibe with that leeward hull in the water.
Not his best jibe, not the cleanest of turns from Groupama Team France either. So, again, neck and neck, level pegging.
26, the boundary.
Yeah, keep it calm, John.
Such a balancing act, isn't it? Trying to make sure that everything is in the right position to the point where the hulls are well clear of the water.
Okay, here we go, guys.
And another slow tack by Ainsley right there. Both boats put both hulls down that time. If you're behind, you cannot afford to make a mistake, and that leeward hull is still in the water right now, and they're struggling to get back up to speed. Only going 14 knots, Groupama's going 24.
Come on, guys.
Big disparity in pace currently, and the French beginning to open up a handy advantage.
Again, they just that one mistake, and we keep bringing this up throughout all the races so far. That one mistake can cost hundreds of meters of distance, and just one bad tack by Land Rover BAR right there, and all of a sudden things are very different on the race course.
Leave the extension.
So the French turning the tables very effectively at the moment against Land Rover BAR and Sir Ben Ainsley, who's being asked some pretty serious questions as we approach the last couple of legs of the race. Frank Camas and his crew really resilient, having suffered a pretty terrible opening day of racing here on the Great Sound. Their stability, their control called into question. It's still far from perfect, as you can see. But they are setting the agenda now.
It is far from perfect. And they're spending a lot of time in the water after that tack. And that allows Ainsley to get back, to start getting back. You hear that traditional Ainsley. Come on, dig it in. We've heard that before. I think we heard that out in San Francisco a few times.
There's some interesting noises coming out of that British boat at the moment. Feeling the heat.
Come on, guys, just keep working. Okay, take quicker now.
Study of concentration. Picture of defiance. Ben Ainsley never knows when he's beaten. He won't be giving this up in a hurry.
Get the lock in again.
Just one victory to their name so far. The British crew having lost out to Japan, to the USA, to New Zealand.
Come on. Come on, 15. Okay, tacking.
Told our cameras are not working on Groupama Team France right now, hence the fact we haven't had lots of onboard shots there, but I'm not sure we have to right now. The big picture tells the story. No quit in these guys, though. There's no doubt about that.
Quite a sizable lead being built up here by the French. Ken, what needs to happen from a British perspective to try and overhaul them from here? Because time's running out.
Yeah, that white boat needs to make a mistake. I mean, nothing. There's big wind shifts, as Christian reported out there, but as you kind of get down into the end of the funnel, which is getting down towards the top of the race course, there's not much you can do unless the other guy makes a big mistake. And Groupama appears to be not only stretching their lead, but on ley line into this gate, and they just got to bear away and keep it simple going down this last run. Wow. I don't think anybody saw this coming.
Okay, ley line in 10.
Well, they are proving something of a surprise package here in Bermuda. Groupama Team France still flying across the top of the water and heading downwind for the final time in the race, and they are plunging into the water. The nosedive is not a good look, but they have a pretty hefty lead at this point.
Yeah, they got too high coming out of that mark. We've seen the British team do that on occasion as well. A lot of times people think the big crash down, that splash, that plunge is because the boat gets too low. It actually is just the opposite. The boat gets too high, it loses control, the foil cavitates, and it very rapidly plunges down, giving a quick early afternoon shower to the troops.
An eventful time for Land Rover BAR out here. That big collision with SoftBank Team Japan, and now under the pump from one of the underdogs, one of the outsiders to come through here in Bermuda. The French surprising people. It was enough to ambush the Swedes, and maybe they've got enough here to take out Sir Ben Ainslie and Land Rover BAR as well.
The one thing you take away from that last rounding is Ainslie did not have that problem that we've seen them have in the past, which is that overflight, that big overflight, and then that plunge, the big crash, which certainly cost them a race yesterday. It looks like they've alleviated that problem, but still a few hundred yards behind, a few hundred meters behind. And these guys have gone from an early 90% fly time up to 95, 96%. That means they're spending a lot of time out of the water since that first time we saw the graphic. I don't know what to say. I don't think anybody saw this coming. I'm not sure the French saw this coming, to be honest with you. It's just a major feather in the cap of that entire organization to take a boat that they were literally struggling to sail, never mind at the elite level here. You know, you still see these little mistakes from time to time, but far fewer times than when we saw in the first couple races of the event.
Well, even with those little errors, they will feel mighty confident from here. They can turn around and they will need their binoculars, because Sir Ben Ainslie is light years behind in real terms as they head for the final gate. Groupama Team France, really the story of the America's Cup so far. Their defiance in the face of all expectations. This, a very slick maneuver as they head to the finish line. Frank Camas is pulling it out of the bag.
Ripping across great sound right now with one quick little reach to the finish. Again, with the finish line for those people here at the dockyard, it's literally probably a good solid pitching wedge from the front porch. Go through that starting line and put the brakes on fast, because there's only trouble that lurks on the other side, which is rocks and a beach and maybe somebody's patio. Incredible.
Well, it is a wonderful story. They have been up against it. They arrived here with, I think, low expectations from most aficionados. We saw what it meant to the French supporters when they came through to beat the Swedes. Real emotion etched on the faces of their fans that day. But here, confirmation that they are genuine contenders. They are right in the mix here in the America's Cup qualifiers, and they have put the Brits to the sword.
This is another look in the mirror moment for the Brits. You know, with only one win in the whole series, Groupama now with 2. The Japanese with another race to come this afternoon with a chance of getting to 2. Look in the mirror moment, and here these guys come ripping across the finish line.
It's a win for Frank Camas and the French team, and not just a win, a tremendous victory that will mean so much in edging out Land Rover BAR, they've taken them to the cleaners here today, and they have told the rest of the fleet that they are here to stay. Big, big victory. Real resilience, had to hang tough at the start, but composed, well drilled, and coming through in flying form. This lot, plenty to think about. Sir Ben Ainslie will not be happy, given the start that he had, given the advantage that he held. He is not accustomed to giving up those kind of leads. Approaching the 50-second mark beyond the French. And ultimately, that is a big setback for the British team here in Bermuda.